Hi, I'm Joe Welinske, and I'm the organizer of the upcoming UX Writer Conference that's going to be virtual online for 2 days, June 9th and 10th. And we have, I think, a pretty great roster of speakers that will be there. And I get the fun task of chatting with them beforehand. So today I am talking with Dorothy Lindman. Hello, Dorothy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Well, I am doing good. We're like in about week 7 of full-time working at home. I live on Vashon Island near Seattle. Where are you talking to us from?
I'm actually from downtown Redmond.
So how's it going in downtown Redmond? Is the streets pretty clear or
Streets are pretty empty. So, there's I live right across the street from a grocery store, so I do see some traffic, but yeah, nothing like it was. The movie theater and the bars are just dead, right?
yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate about so many of the small businesses, but I feel pretty good about the kind of the energetic effort and feeling like everybody's been good about paying attention to what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And some of the bars around here have some solid core regulars who do takeout all the time, and buying gift cards is huge for them. If you've
yeah.
got a regular place that you want to give some money to now, buy some gift cards. That's great.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I have seen some of those signs. I haven't done it yet, but I should dig in on that. Let's talk a little bit about you, and you're going to be one of the presenters at the conference. So, I think all of us end up getting to wherever we're at in somewhat in paths that aren't exactly what we thought it would be. But I
Right.
don't know about you, but why don't you just talk a little bit about your background?
Well, I came out of college with an English degree, and a heavy emphasis on grammar because I minored in Latin and Greek. Started out teaching English as a second language, which I loved, and from there I ended up temping one summer to get, because I didn't have classes that summer, so I was temping at a market research firm, and they actually just went ahead and offered me a full-time job at the end of the summer. It's like, well, I can earn almost twice as much reading reports. So I was doing a lot of reading reports, summarizing them, essentially your English literature comps. Here's a stack of focus groups, go through, find the common themes, pull some good quotes for us, things like that. It was just like being back in school. So that was so I started out there, and then after they were closing down our office several years later, I moved over to a fiber optic manufacturer. The marketing firm that I was at had focused on telecommunications satisfaction surveys, so I had a pretty decent background in the telecommunications side from that work. So I moved into telecommunications. And I think that was where I first started on UI and UX writing. We didn't have a user interface for this particular custom-made network product. They shipped it off to the first customer, and the customer said, "Great, when do we get the UI?" And they said, "We just assumed you'd use the command line like we do." They said, "No, we're not going to do that." So it was literally an afterthought, the user interface. They said, "Well, we kind of kludged together these screens for our test engineers. I guess you could have this." And that was our user interface. So having that experience, and I was the technical writer, and then became the technical trainer, and then the manager of the technical training and publications department, and was able to have a really solid impact on that thing that they called a user interface that was really just graphic view into command line stuff. And it had no thought to the user task, user context, nothing. It was so terrible. And so that was my first solid experience. You know, that was my first, oh, this is what user interface means. This is what it does. And so we went through and managed to convince the engineers to rewrite that user interface. Still looked terrible, but at least it was based around the tasks the user was trying to do.
And now you're working at, today you're working at HBO in an environment that it sounds like it couldn't be any different in terms of
so from there it's really been a long, it's been a big evolution. So just watching the industry itself evolve from just give them screenshots, the users will figure it out, to hey, maybe we should actually think about our users and make it easier for them, to wow, this should be a profession and a discipline about thinking about our users. And then, hey, maybe we should look at the words we use when we're talking to our users, and just watching the evolution of, the computing industry as a whole, and then watching the growth of the user experience realm, I guess, and just have been I'm really glad that I'm around now to see how it all came out, because I feel like I'm at the other end of that long journey from, we guess users will want an interface, to, all right, we're going to do user testing and we're going to do design and everything is user focused and we're doing user first and the engineers can figure it out. And it's the complete opposite of where I started in the technology.
Well, why don't you maybe talk a little bit about what your environment is like now? How is your team set up? What are some of the the core activities that you're involved in? I mean, certainly most people are familiar with your product, your service, right, and so that's a little different than some products. But what's it like, working within your team?
So this is a great team. It's actually, of the various places I've worked, they have the strongest user research department that I've ever worked at, which is amazing. We've actually had the opportunity to have an entire user study around the copy and the text in the UI around a new feature. And it's not launched yet, so I won't tell you what that feature was, but it's coming out May 27th, I think. End of May, right? We should be launching the week before this conference. So I'm so excited. I'll actually be able to use real examples of stuff because it'll have launched by then. But the being able to say, hey, we're trying to explain this new feature to our users and say, we have kind of this design concepts, but the terms we use are tricky, and how we explain how this thing works, and being able to sit down and just say, I'm going to have a week-long study, bring in current users and say, here's 3 or 4 different versions of the text that shows up in the screen or screens with the different text and the different messages, and what do you think each one means and which one means the most to you? And that's the first time in my career I've ever been able to do that, of have a copy-centric user study. And that was great. And we're planning some more as we go forward, and especially around all the new features and on that ideation side of things. So the designers are great. They work really well with the writers. The engineers do really well. If they see a string change coming through that doesn't already have my name on it, they'll actually call me up and say, "Hey, did you know they were changing this?"
Well, I mean, we're all in this remote working situation now, but am I right in remembering that? I mean, at some point, HBO decided that they wanted to have the particular service that you're working on to be in Seattle versus what was it previously all in New York?
Um, so the design, yeah, I'm not sure where the engineering side of it was. It may have actually, they were kind of split, I think, between New York and Los Angeles. Um, and so, yeah, they moved when they were sort of spinning out the streaming digital product as its own department, essentially as its own product in-house. They decided to land in Seattle. So pretty much all of the engineers and all of the technology architects and all of the data scientists and everything are all based in Seattle. Our design team we were half in Seattle and half in New York, but now I think we're about 30% New York, 30% Seattle, and then 30%. We're aiming for 30% in LA. So we're sort of spreading out the design team a little bit, but the core engineering team is still pretty solidly in Seattle.
And with with the service like yours, where the ultimate consumer end is it's in your living room, TV,
right?
Wherever you're watching that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of it's like a special place for a lot of people. We're used to a lot of difficult transition to streaming, but it's definitely here. And so,
Right.
like, how is that articulated within the design and the types of things that you do?
So yeah, with the launch of the new product, it is um, really focused on streaming first. The When I joined, we had the subscription set top box product basically, and through your cable subscriber or something like that, and different providers uh, like iTunes and other subscription providers. And so we had um, kind of a provider centric model where we actually had 2 or 3 distinct products and interfaces for each um, uh, uh, category of provider. So we had one that the cable providers used. We had another one we had some direct to consumer. That was kind of where we shoved the direct to consumer in there. But, Amazon or Apple, any of the other subscription services, we have a separate interface for Roku. And we had all of these different code bases floating around on the source control system. So with HBO Max, they're saying it's all one system. And so it's refactoring everything. It is a huge amount of work from the development side, but also even just from the design side, it's a complete new design. It's all highly user focused and attempting to be seamless for the user regardless of how they're signing in, whether they're coming in from one of the one of the cable providers or one of the subscription providers, or buying it directly. It's all one experience. It's all seamless. And we went through and redid the brand voice, which was a huge lift basically, because again, we had the different user interfaces around and we had different different phrasing everywhere, different voice. And so we went through and said, okay, we're just going to compress it all, have a single unified brand voice, and then roll that out with the new interface design. And it is an entirely new product.
Yeah, well, it's exciting to hear that all that's taken place. And then at the conference, you're going to be talking about specifically about your work with user interface text.
Yes. So one of the big challenges that we were facing in this project was, how do we deal with the user interface text, so that how do we know? We have to go through and update a whole lot. We have to track what's been updated, what hasn't been updated. With the merger with AT&T and then the reorganization with Warner Media, we have 2 more legal teams that we have to get approval from, so that through a whole new round of reviews and another layer of things that we needed to watch out for. And it has been a significant challenge to try and get all of this stuff together. We have learned a lot. We don't have the problem completely solved, but we've got a large chunk of what questions do we need to ask. That was the first piece. And then we've got about 3/4 of those answered. And we've actually got some engineering resources that have been promised to us post-launch to kind of go back in and get as much as we can into a new CMS that they're going to be turning up by the end of the year. And then also a more structured database of error messages to help the CES, our consumer experience specialists, go in and look up what that is. Here's the error message. Oh, okay. I can look it up and now find out what it is instead of just having to remember. So we're actually going to be doing a lot more UX string work going forward. So,
well, it'd be great to be able to listen to you dig into some of the details during the event. And I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to chat with me, talk about your background and things going on at work. And we'll see you online in a few weeks.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's great talking with you.
All right.
And I appreciate the opportunity to speak at the conference.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dorothy. Talk to you
later.
All right.
Bye-bye.